How does food play into Singaporean culture for you?
I think it's a very central part of life.
I think Singaporean culture is a lot about food. I mean, food definitely is a big part of the way we interact and bond.
It's always been like a point of bonding for a lot of people. Usually like meals aren't just meant for people to eat, but just a point of reference for people to come together and talk and catch up.
Families gather around food, you meet up with friends over food, whether it's breakfast, lunch or dinner or supper or dessert or tea. I think you can think of a million other ways. But Singaporeans love to enjoy food together.
Singapore, because eating out is really cheap, so it's really common for people to go out to eat with their friends. It's not like a special occasion that you go like once a month. It pretty much happens like almost every few days. That's how people bond. There's like many different ways. There's people in the coffee shop just talking and relaxing after a long day. There's going out with your friends, enjoying yourself.
I feel like every Singaporean is basically a food critic, and every Singaporean like loves food. I mean, you have a couple who probably don't love every kind of food, but they have their favorites and they're very specific about it. Yeah, so everybody has their favorite place to go get char kway teow or chicken rice.
And there's definitely other family meals. Like I think in most Asian cultures, like eating together as a family, all that shared dishes plays a very big part in like bonding together.
It's all about community. Usually like well, back home, like meals are like have multiple dishes, and it's like a certain like programmed kind of meal, like with rice, and like there's always vegetables, always a bit of fish, always a bit of meat. People come together, isn't like too much for one person to eat, and so it's always an excuse for multiple people to come together and catch up. It's
very rare that people eat alone, especially even if they're going to work or they're busy.
One of my best memories of like Singapore and home is going to your grandma's house or some relative's house and just like having way too much food there, but it's such a big happy family time where everyone just eats all the delicious food cooked by your grandparents.
I think like that's part of the culture, part of I guess Asian culture or Singaporean culture, and here I think is an excuse for me to eat with friends and people I love.
We do go out with our friends once in a while, but yeah, maybe the family part is missing. Definitely when you have your parents and your grandma, having so many different generations sitting at a table or just like being in the house. Like sometimes with your grandma and your aunts and uncles and little cousins and nieces and nephews. So that intergenerational eating experience is definitely something you can't get at Tufts. Yeah. And also the whole idea of, like we have all these giant dishes and everyone just eats and shares them. It's definitely a lot more fun to be in Singapore, especially because the food there is so cheap and so good. Singapore food is definitely a mix of the different cultures we have back home. So it's a combination of Malay, Indian, Chinese, even some Eurasian taste.
Definitely a lot more complexity of spices and stuff like that. For example, like the laksa, you have like the sweet and the tangy.
The ingredients play a big part, like what you can find in Southeast Asia. So there'll be a lot of spices, lemongrass, galangal, preserved vegetables, preserved beans, salty things to make the food taste good. Lots of spices and chili for sure. A lot of flavour basically. Very flavourful.
I think most of Southeast Asian food is cooked at like high heat, so you have that like, they call it wok hei kind of like flavor where it's I don't know, it just feels like you can almost taste that it came right from the pan. That sort of feel.
Penang is a Malaysian cuisine. Penang have been established like 15, 20 years. Started in New York City, and then after a few years they're doing so well in New York City, they decided to expand their business in Boston. More or less the same thing, the ingredient. The way we cook it, we still use it back home. So my cook also experienced it back in Malaysia. They already are cooked there. When you put up Malaysian food, we more or less we have to be authentic. People who come to this restaurant become Malaysian, like Asian people, Singaporean, Malaysian, Indonesian, more or less they already know the food.
Penang is a Malaysian restaurant, but you are from Singapore. So what is the history behind like Malaysian and Singaporean food?
A lot of my friends ask me why I bring them to Penang when I want to let them try Singapore food, but the reason is because we're neighbours, we're like really close to each other, so definitely our cuisines overlap a lot. One country for 2 years before we stood up, so there's definitely a lot of crossover influence. Many Malaysians live in Singapore or have lived there before moving there. Many Singaporeans actually do have relatives in Malaysia, and we're in the same region, so a lot of our ingredients will be the same. There's a lot of controversy, in fact, about which dish belongs to which country. It doesn't really matter to the people because to us, we just want the best food. It makes you think a lot about how food and like does a dish ever belong to a certain country. But honestly, to the people, Malaysians and Singaporeans, we just enjoy the fact that you can get the best of both worlds.
I feel like I never go without another Singaporean, and usually we're bringing a friend.
On my own, I won't just go there. It's normally like a big event, like all the Singaporeans, we gather together and go there just for fun, just to like pretend we're in Singapore and eat the food.
And usually get really excited when I go there. And I usually take a really long time to decide what I want because there's like so many different things that I want to try. And I usually narrow it down to things that I can't make by myself.
So the last time I can remember was when our Singapore Students Association planned an outing to Penang. So we took up 2 or 3 big round tables. It was really fun, it was really lively because we were all speaking in our Singlish. We just made a lot of noise, we were all bonding over the food, and just talking about home, things that maybe other people might not like understand. Talking about our high schools, like politics back home. It's just a way of connecting, a way of just like bonding over something we have in common back home.
I think I just go because I miss Singaporean food, and those moments when I miss Singapore, I just go there.
I guess I like the food.
The food?
I like that it serves food similar to Singaporean food.
I like being able to eat food that I could find back home in Singapore that I can't find anywhere else in Boston. So it just like brings back memories. It's a familiar taste. It's not necessarily like the tastiest food in the world, but it definitely reminds me the most of home. So I kind of like dishes with bitter melon, which most people don't like, but it's something my mom always cooks. So when I eat it, it just reminds me of my mom's cooking. But the other dishes that are nice are things that I probably won't be able to cook by myself, like asam laksa or char kway teow.
I really like the fact that I can get 2 different kinds of laksa there. The asam laksa and the curry one, which is supposed to be the Singaporean version. It's not easy to make and also reminds me of home the most. I feel like they're variations of the other popular Singaporean foods that you can get, you know, in like Chinese or Thai restaurants. The laksa, especially the asam laksa, is very specific to Singapore and Malaysia.
Asam laksa is kind of sour fish soup, but it's a very unique taste, very Southeast Asian tasting. I like it because I don't know how to make it, I don't know how to find all the herbs or spices. Char kway teow is like fried noodles. It's not Singapore noodles. It's not just like noodles fried in soy sauce, but you need like a big wok to cook it to get like the flavor. It's just like comfort kind of food.
I guess other than the food, I like the whole feel of the place. And they try and make it feel like a kampong. I guess the interior is very like wooden, like bamboo. They have some areas that look like little huts.
I don't normally cook Singaporean food like the traditional kinds, normally because they involve so many ingredients which in Singapore would be easy to get in the market. But here, even though there are a lot of Asian markets, that they don't always carry Southeast Asian like spices or produce. So we make do. I brought my grandma's special chili all the way from Singapore. It's so delicious because it's made of shrimp and chili. I don't know what it is, but my grandma makes it and it's awesome. So that always makes whatever I cook taste a bit like home. There's also this amazing invention made by some company in Singapore that it's kind of like it's like a paste where you just add water and cook.
So this is a cream effect. I think one of the reasons why it's good they do that is you can't find all the spices you need, like the curry powder, the specific curry powder, and all those other things that you need.
It's not something I'll eat on a daily basis. It's more of like a special event, or when you invite friends over to let them try Singapore food, then you save those like packets of magic paste for them. But on a daily basis, I mostly just use like basic sauces like soy sauce, chili sauce, vinegar, fish sauce. Just like whip something together really quickly. Yeah. So it's not like street food you'll get in Singapore, but it's close to something I'll eat at home that my mom would just cook on like a weekday night.